In this video, I'm going to share with you my experience as a financials trader. I thought I'd have a cup of tea with you and just really dive into my own story as to why I'm here, what's really been my journey and really driven me to this point of what I'm sharing with you here on YouTube and on all the social media channels. I think the main thing that really shaped my work to this day is really having been a financials trader. I was attracted by the industry. I was young, I was in my late teens. Finance was the place to be. And I ended up studying in the UK, economics, econometrics. I was full on into coding for a time being. And I did a few internships and really just saw that finance was the way. I was an A-type character, really driven. You can only imagine coming from a German father and a Chinese mother, the kind of structuring I would have had. I sometimes say those are the two countries that built the largest walls in the world. With a lot of structure, rigidity, also drive and force and motivation. I really just wanted to make it. For me, money at the time was like freedom. It was like choice. It was like doing what I wanted to do. Having that high-flying career, really proving myself in a man's world. I was all in for that. And that really kind of drew me to finance. I actually started at JP Morgan and then moved to UBS. And I was in sales when I started. Most of the women start in sales. It's kind of the stereotype. As I entered there, it was 2007 on the trading floor at UBS. It was a time where a lot of things were going up and down. It was the subprime time. It was a lot of volatility, and they had offered me to move to a trading desk to help out. And I remember one after the other, week after week, month after month, I think in 3 months, I was one of the only people left on the desk due to obviously rogue positions, the volatility, a lot of defaults, people were losing their jobs. And so I ended up with a trading book at a super young age. Of course, when you first start out, you are in super early. I remember I moved to Shoreditch just to be walking distance from work because I had to be in the office at like 6:30 to do the morning review, to write up what the markets had done overnight, to really get all the information, to send out my prices, to start making markets. So I was really on the market making side. And I got given my first book. And a book is when you get products to trade and to make markets around. And it was one that no one wanted to trade at the time. There wasn't a big market. And I just took it and I started making markets. I started getting introduced to clients. I started talking to them. I started understanding their positions. And it was bit after bit that I was making markets at things that were not really like very liquid at the time. So the price between you buy and you sell was quite big. And so I was actually making quite a bit of money. Now, after the first year, they were like, this is a fluke, this shouldn't have happened, you're young. And I kind of bought it and I was like, okay, fine. I was a young girl on the trading floor figuring my thing out. I was being paid very well though, I must admit. And also I had really great mentors. The head of the trading floor used to come up to me every day. The head of one of the market sections asked me what I thought about the market. I was in touch with a lot of clients. I really kind of grew my career, my relationships with people. I loved that dimension of it. The one thing I did learn though as a woman, which is very different from the men on the trading floor, and it's something I speak about a lot about investing and taking risks, was that the men were like taking massive positions up and down, trading, taking a lot of risk. Whereas I kind of figured out that if I made a bit of money every day and bagged a bit of my profits, that by the end of the year, I would have quite a lot. And so I wasn't taking massive amounts of risks, but I was understanding the market and knowing the positions that I wanted to trade in. I also became close to clients. I understood things better. It was kind of a really amazing time for me in terms of growth. I do think it does shape you having worked in the corporate world, having had that time to experience really what it was to be in the eye of the storm on the trading floor at that young age. But then there was also a flip side to it. I was working at crazy hours, getting up super early, as I mentioned, and also staying up late with clients, going out. I was really burning the candle on both sides. It was a time like in the movies of Wolf of Wall Street, we were out a lot. It was the high time of finance. I've spoken to ex-colleagues now and it's really not the same, but I was, I guess on one hand, also lucky to have experienced that and really known that. But on the other hand, I just completely burnt the candle on all ends. I was definitely not present. I mean, you can ask people who are around me. Apparently I was on my BlackBerry all the time, having positions open. I was out a lot at night with clients, partying. It was kind of part of that life. And then I realized at some moment that that was not fulfilling me anymore. I was making the money I wanted to make. I had this financial goal in mind. I was like, by the time I'm 30, I want to be MD, which is managing director, which is the highest position at the bank. By the time I'm this, I want this. I was hitting all of the targets, the financial targets I wanted to hit, but inside I was just feeling empty. I was really not connected to life. And it was a big revelation journey for me, honestly. What was material possessions? What were the things, you know? Like I remember my colleagues, when bonus time came, they were buying new sofas and upgrades for their houses. And I was just so lost at the time. I couldn't even think of what to buy except for a pair of, I think it was Louboutin Jimmy Choo shoes, you know? And that didn't bring me happiness. So when I started realizing that I was after all these material possessions, and maybe I'll be able to pull up some pictures just to share here, but I was going to Vegas for the weekend, taking private jets. I was flying to Asia, going to parties, thinking I was living that high life, which was all glamorous kind of on the outside. I was not enjoying it. I wasn't present. I didn't even have the time to do it. I was so tired. And when I look back at some pictures of me then, it was just emptiness. I was drained. And then, you know how life can function sometimes? There were like little, I guess, nudges and hints. I always think that life taps us on the shoulder, whispers into our ear, nudges us, says it's time to make a move. And if we're not hearing it, we start getting little bumps, little pushes, little kicks, and bigger nudges, unfortunately, and sometimes much larger things for us to really realize we are not on the right path. And for me, that was a little bit that story, like little things started coming in. I started meeting a lady in the bathroom who was turning 40, who told me she had spent her whole life on the trading floor and kind of urged me not to do what she was doing. By the way, a parenthesis, but bathroom times are really like the times I could leave the desk. Moments sometimes I shed tears with other women in there. It was quite an intense environment. I mean, I think we were like 95% men and like 5% women or something. Just that conversation with her started nudging me. And then there were other things like little taps, you know, it was like, is this really for you? Is that really for me? And I think it was about a year before I left, I had this really kind of massive breakthrough moment. I was really down. It was after a night out. My mom was like, there's a meditation teacher, just go to this session. I remember it was a Saturday morning. I'd been out the night before. I rocked up like half an hour late. And the guy just sat down with me and literally went, would you like a cup of tea? I was like, wow, this is the most simple, basic, beautiful thing someone had asked me. I had not stopped. It was like this. And from that moment on, I started feeling a space opening up for me. He was like, can you meditate every morning? I was like, no, I can't. I'm sorry. I don't have time. Do an invocation. Fine. I did that. Walking to work within 5 minutes. And these little windows of space started opening up more and more in my life. I started seeing the benefit of having like a bit more space, a bit more space, a bit more space. That's why I could start hearing myself. That's why I could start feeling what was coming through me. It's when I started understanding I had something alive within me. And then the final year of when I was in trading floor, I remember the year before I'd made like 65 million and they were like, okay, what are you gonna make? What's your target? I said 10 million because it wasn't gonna be a great year. And they said, okay, make us 20 million and we'll pay you X amount. And that was the year where I started meditating, fluke events, twice the market crashed, twice the day before I had this insight to sell everything. I was quite lean on my positions and risk taking anyways. And I ended up closing the year up 45 million, more than anyone on the trading floor. It was a year where people had lost a lot of money. Things were not going right. I wasn't paid what I had asked for. And this is where the question started coming in. I was like, what am I doing here? It was like an existential question. Like, am I putting my energy to things I really believe in? Is this really part of my values? Or is it just for money? And this is where the big questions kind of started shifting and, you know, those moments that turn you a bit in your life. And I was like, okay, I'm here to make the money I've wanted to make. I am making the money I wanted to make. Of course, I wasn't paid that amount. So this is the money I made for the bank. But it wasn't making me happy. And at the same time, friends were getting married, buying houses, settling in their lives. And I was like, is this going to be it? That was kind of like my question, you know? And I just realized like that wasn't the life I just wanted to lead. I wanted more. I wanted to experience things. I wanted to travel. I wanted to live. I wanted to know what life really was. And that's where the turning point started happening, where I decided to take a sabbatical. They gave it to me. And then after the sabbatical, I really couldn't go back. It was the first time I also went like kind of outside of my box. I'd never been to a festival. I went to Burning Man, like experiences like this, where I was like, wow, my square frame was just starting to move. I was in my mid-20s. I had this crazy career. I had this money available to me. And I just thought, the world is my oyster. If I don't do it now, I won't do it. Because in finance, what happens is you're paid in deferred shares. So you're paid a third now, paid a third later, paid a third in 3 years' time. So that is like the donkey and the carrot for me. It's like, I have those shares, but they're not really mine. When am I going to get paid out? And I ended up seeing people all around me staying in their positions just to receive those shares. And I realized that that wasn't going to be my destiny. I wanted so much more out of life. I wanted to experience so much more. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way, but I was young. I was full of fire. And that's where the turning point came, where I realized it wasn't just about money. It wasn't just money that was going to bring me happiness, because I had all the money I wanted, but I didn't even have the time to spend it. I didn't have quality time with people, friends, or the ability for that. And that's where the shift happened, where I got to have this incredible time as a trader. I would never swap it again. The experiences I had, the exposure I had, but I also really, really missed a meal at home, a cooked meal, just quality time with people. And that's where I started realizing the more space came into my life, the more I wanted to explore more things. And so I'm not saying this story is for everyone. It's very much my story coming out of finance, a really highly successful career on the trading floor at a time where it was super volatile, where everyone thought I was crazy. They all said to me, "Are you insane to be leaving your job? This is what everyone wants." And I just wanted the other way. It was a hard journey to question myself, to know that I was on the right path, to not listen to others, to doubt that I wasn't going in the right direction. Because of course, everyone was questioning me. But I knew that there was another way. And it wasn't an easy step to come out of the system per se, or come out of that job, that security, but I did it. What I really wanted to share with this video is really my story of how I've gotten here, kind of my journey through finance. And I'll do a few more other videos about, my other learnings and why I really have developed the methodologies I've developed. But what I want to tell you here is that there's a courage, there's a voice inside of you. And if you're hearing that, maybe just make space for it. I know that I was at a time when I was young and I could just leave and travel and I had zero responsibilities. Maybe that's not the case for you if you have family, children, responsibilities in your life. But making those small moments allows something to come through, allows you to hear your voice. And I feel all of us have a purpose. All of us have something bigger than just the life that we're living right now, or like being born to have jobs, to work for money. And I really believe in each of us there's a spark of creativity of what we want to put out into the world, of our purpose. And so if you have that calling, make that space. Even if that's a moment a day, an hour a week, whatever you can afford yourself in your busy life. Half a day, a month, cultivate that, because that's a space that allowed me to start shifting my life. And I'm sure that you can find a key about your life within that. So I hope this inspired you in some way. And if you are on your solopreneurship journey, I do have a guide to help you kind of get on that path, take care of your finances, be in financial peace of mind, that you can download free below. And I'd love to hear your comments about your own journeys of changes of lives, of maybe reaching a point around your finances, questioning money, or really shifting something so that we can keep learning, inspiring, and growing together. If you enjoyed this, please share the video or follow my channel, and I'd love to be in contact with you more along the way.